Who else but Steven Means to put an exclamation point on this preseason finale? Welcome to the Postgame Show presented by Ricoh. I'm Chris McPherson alongside former Eagles linebacker Ike Reese. And it wasn't the prettiest of games, but at the very end, 18 seconds ago, forget the Timmy Changs, the Mike Kafkas, the Trent Edwardses, the Tim Tebows. Joe Callahan is the quarterback you want to lead you from behind in that fourth preseason affair against the New York Jets, completing a 4-yard touchdown pass to running back Matt Jones to put the Eagles on top by a score of 10-9, and Steven Means getting the sack to put the game away. So the Eagles end the preseason with a 1-3 record. Ike, we can breathe a sigh of relief. The regular season is now a week away. Next Thursday night when the Atlanta Falcons come to town. As we take one look here at this preseason finale, any players who jumped off the page who might have helped solidify their cause for a roster spot, as the Eagles have to get to the 53-player limit by 4 p.m. on Saturday?
Well, it's tough sledding getting through this game, Chris. The fourth preseason game, not a lot of offense, some good defense, really some sloppy offense from the Jets and the Eagles. But if I'm looking at anyone that helped their case to be on this team come this weekend, it would have to be Steven Means. We started off with him. He ended the game with a sack. I thought his play in the second half really lit a fire under the team. Really, the defense, they played hard all night. They kept the Jets out of the end zone for the most part. 3 field goals for the Jets tonight, I believe.
Yes.
So they didn't give up a touchdown. And it was really hard to find anyone on the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles that really stood out. You know, a lot of sloppy play, turnovers, things of that nature. But on the defensive side of the ball, some good hitting, a couple turnovers, and they were led by Steven Means. Now, he's a little bit of a veteran, and so playing in this game, the thing I love about him is that his motor never seems to stop. Reminds me a lot of my former teammate, N.D. Kalu, that played here. Just a guy, you put him out there on the field, and he knows how to get to the quarterback.
What does it mean to have, not to say Steven Means, but what does it mean having a player like that who, when you go out into practice every day, you know he's going to bring it as if it were game day?
Well, I've heard Lane Johnson even talk about the type of work that Steven Means gives him in practice to get him prepared for the upcoming weeks. So when you get a guy like that who's not going to take plays off in practice, coaches love that, because the offensive guys, the offensive linemen, they need to get that work. And it's rare that you're going to get game-type speed from these scout team looks. But a guy like Steven Means that knows he can't afford to take a play off, he can't afford to take a week off, he's going to give you game-type energy even out there on the practice field. He's been here for I believe this is his third year?
Fourth
season that he's been here. And he
3 sacks tonight.
He impresses every year, man. I mean, out there with those guys, this is a guy that you can tell he's able to help your ball club on a Sunday. And I know our defensive line has great depth, but you can never have enough good pass rushers.
No.
You never have enough good pass rushers.
Not whatsoever. I think what's also helpful having a player like Steven Means in his final preseason game is he sets a tone from a veteran standpoint, because the rookies are out there, they're wide-eyed, they're overly excited, they understand this is their last chance to put good film on tape for the teams, whether it's the Eagles or for the other 31 teams. And Steven Means will tell the guys, look, just play within yourselves, okay? You've had all of training camp, you've had 3 preseason games, it's just another outing. Don't make it any bigger than it is, because as a rookie, he understands what they went through being a guy on that bubble. Yeah. Now that he has a few years under his belt, it's like, look, you just got to go out there and play solid, consistent football and put that out there on tape. Big picture, though, we talk about this defensive line. What are you expecting? Because I thought the defense from the beginning of the preseason with the starters all the way to the end was pretty much dominant, especially along this defensive line. So it'll be very intriguing to see what Howie Roseman, Joe Douglas, and Doug Peterson do in terms of keeping players, and Jim Schwartz, what they want to do keeping players along the defensive line, because you look at the defensive tackle situation up front, and Tim Jernigan on the non-football injury list hasn't come off of it at this point, so you figure he'll probably not miss some time because of the back surgery to open the season. Defensive end, you have the numbers there, but as a guy like Josh Sweat, who was very promising as a rookie and showed some flashes, especially at the end of the preseason game tonight, is he a guy you can count on game day? So I'm going to be very intrigued to see what they do with this defensive line, how many numbers they keep across the board.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good players there. That was the strength of our defense last year. You can make an argument with the strength of the team as they went 7 or 8 deep, having 7 guys play 400 or more snaps in the league. No other team had that type of luxury on their defensive line. And like I said earlier, you can never have enough good pass rushers. In this league, you got to be able to affect the quarterback in the pocket. I like Josh Sweat too. Wish I could have seen a little more out of him.
A little more in terms of snaps or just flashes in terms
just
of when he was out
in
there?
flashes.
Yeah.
In flashes. But you know what? When you're coming from college and you're rushing against these pro NFL offensive linemen, it's not as easy as it was when you were in college. And you find that out early. I guarantee you Derek Barnett would say the same thing, that the game slowed down for him the second half of the season as opposed to the early part of the season, because the things that you were able to get away with in college off sheer athleticism and speed, it's about technique. It's about counter moves at the NFL level. And with a guy like Steven Means, if it were me, he's a guy that I want active on Sunday because he has 4 years under his belt. He's played in games. He understands what it takes to rush the passer. You got a few guys along the line a little bit long in the tooth when you think about a Michael Bennett. So you think about Haloti Ngata, guys like that. Brandon Graham, he's coming off an ankle injury, so you want to make sure you got some quality depth behind him. Chris Long, another guy, a little bit long in the tooth. I think a guy like Steven Means, he's at that ripe age where he's just about to start to hit his prime. He understands what it means to pass rush. He's been in this system for a few years. I love to see him make this team. I think he can add some quality depth.
You mentioned the depth there, and I go back to February at the NFL Scouting Combine, and Howie Roseman said that he wanted to make sure that this team going to 2018 had the same amount of depth as it had last season. So seeing how everything is unfolded in the preseason, seeing how this team has developed throughout the course of training camp and the players coming in and out of the lineup, do you think that depth is there along the defensive line that it had back in 2017?
Well, we are at the defensive end position. I think we're okay there as long as Brandon comes back.
The whole line across the board.
Well, the defensive tackle is the position where you got a little bit of concern if you're looking at the depth. Obviously, you look at the starters in Fletcher Cox and Haloti Ngata. Those are veterans. You don't have to worry about those guys. I like Destiny Veal, too. He's been here a few years now. Still a young guy, but he's been in the system for a couple years. I would have liked to have seen a little more out of Elijah Qualls this summer. 7th-round draft pick out of Washington last year with Tim Jernigan being sidelined. This gave Elijah an opportunity to step up and really, solidify his spot on his roster. I didn't see a whole lot of him out of this preseason. Maybe the coaches. One thing I will say, I'm not privy to being out here in practice. So I do understand that what you see in the game isn't necessarily indicative of what a player has progressed throughout training camp. So these coaches get to watch them every day in practice. They understand what they're good at, what they need to work on. So it'll be interesting when it's cut down time. And those decisions are made, I would think, primarily based off what you've done in practice. Coaches getting to see you in one-on-one situations. Coaches getting to see you in certain matchups in 2-minute drill out there, short yardage, goal line, things of that nature that you don't always get to work on in a preseason game because the situation may not arise. So sometimes watching the games, it can be a little more difficult for us to evaluate players, and that's why the coaches, they have the final word because they get to watch these guys every day.
So I'm asking you a lot, like early on in the show, about the defense because I think you were hitting on it during your afternoon show with John Marks on Sports Radio 94 WIP about how the defense largely, helped carry this team through the latter part of the regular season and early in the postseason until the Super Bowl, and then Nick Foles and the offense, they hit its stride and they were able to take everything over from there. But late in the season, after Carson Wentz got injured, the defense knew that it had to come to perform each and every week. And you go back to the playoff game against the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons are coming to the Link a week from tonight. And I don't know if you can have another 15-10 type ball game with Matt Ryan, with Julio Jones, with Devontae Freeman, especially now that that offense is going into its second year with Steve Sarkisian as a coordinator. There's some stability there, whereas last season it wasn't there, and you could tell things were off, especially when they had those 4 red zone plays when they had an opportunity to win the game. So to me, it seems like early on, especially since so many players were missing from the offensive side of the ball here in training camp in the preseason, the defense might need to come out on fire to start things off early and feed off the crowd to be able to, spark things while the offense gets its groove.
I think you hit it right on the head. The defense has to know that they need to lead the charge the early part of the season, and I think they're game for it. The thing I love about this defense is that they have personality, they have tenacity. Remind me a lot of the defenses I played with back during the Jim Johnson era. I think back to 2002 when Donovan went down, and we even lost Corey Detmer in the very next game.
Yep.
So A.J. Philly, who was a rookie, had to come in, step in, and we were at a critical juncture of the season. We're trying to solidify home field advantage at that point, and you just can't put the pressure on a young quarterback. Now, granted, we don't have a young quarterback situation, but to your point, with the offense missing so many players in the preseason, you got to give them time to sort of find their rhythm, find their chemistry. The defense seems like they're in mid-season form. If there's anything I guess you would sort of have to have a question about is how will our young corners fare, right? You love Jalen Mills and Ron Darby. I think we're straight there, but getting a chance to see Sidney Jones out there in the slot, at the slot corner, it'll be interesting. And in the first game of the season, I don't know if you can get a better test than facing that arsenal coming from the Atlanta Falcons with a former MVP quarterback like Matt Ryan at the helm. Our defense is going to need to be at the top of their game just so they don't force our offense to have to put up 28, 30 points.
Exactly. You especially look at Julio Jones, someone who lines up all over the formation. Whoever they put in the slot, we expect it to be Sidney Jones over Avonte Maddox. You put Julio Jones there, Calvin Ridley, the first-round pick out of Alabama. Either way, there's going to be an explosive threat. And the three receivers, when you factor in Mohamed Sanu, that's a good threesome as you're going to see around the NFL with Matt Ryan, a crafty veteran, being able to sling the ball around, and a quality run game on top of it. So it's going to be a balanced attack. And the other question for the defense is you're not only having the first-year nickel corner in there, whether it's Jones or Max, but you're also going to lose Nigel Brown, who's been suspended here for the first game of the season. So how will the Eagles work the linebacker package there with him out of the lineup there? So what we're going to do now is we're going to send it over to Lincoln Financial Field, and we're going to bring in the insider, Dave Spadaro and Amy Campbell. And Dave, you broke some news late in the broadcast, and the first thing I want to address here, that during the offseason, there was the big Super Bowl logo, Super Bowl championship sign hanging in the locker room for everyone to see. But after meeting with the Players Committee this week, Coach Pederson, Doug Pederson, decided that it needs to come down as the Eagles want to turn the page to 2018. Can you expand on that report that you had?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been what Doug has said the entire offseason here, and that is 2017 was the greatest season, but it's time to move forward, turn the page, focus on 2018. So the Eagles will take the sign down when the players report back to the NovaCare Complex on Sunday. They will put the sign back up after the season, but really it's an opportunity for coach to listen to what the players have to say, respect what they have to say, and everybody in agreement, turn the page. Yeah. Nice to win the Super Bowl, but that's yesterday. The Atlanta Falcons are a week from now.
Well, and I kind of love that attitude, right? Like, you don't want to stay complacent. Getting to the top is one thing, but staying on top is something else. And I think this team wants to build a dynasty, so they don't want to have that stuck in the past. Let's rest on our laurels.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Eagles dynasty.
Sounds nice, right?
Right? I mean, what happened? Eagles win a game here in the preseason. We're feeling pretty. Eagles scored a touchdown in the preseason.
We didn't know if we were going to get one of those. So that was very exciting. There are 18 seconds to go to see that happen there for them. So yeah, some offense a little bit.
Yeah. So there you go, Chris. That's the report on the sign in the locker room.
Yeah, Dave, Amy, I love the idea that Malcolm spoke out about this earlier in the week. What it says to me is that the leadership recognizes that they need to refocus and start thinking about the 2018 season. You know, you had some fans that, sort of took what Chris Long said about a month ago, that he was tired of answering questions about the Super Bowl. I loved it when he said that. And you need veteran guys who have been there and know what it means to come back and try to defend the title and understand how hard it is, that you need to stop answering questions about last year, because it's not going to have any impact on the 2018 season. And I'm so happy that Doug, Mr. Lurie, they decided they wouldn't be offended by this. It's something they listen to their players, and if it's going to get this team to focus in on this season, I'm all for it. Great job by the whole organization.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that the party will stop here. I mean, the fans next week, it's going to be berserk in the city of Philadelphia, and it should be. The fans should continue to celebrate. Yeah. But for the players and the coaches in the organization, Ike, you're right. It's time to look at 2018.
Well, and I think that is one of the great things about Coach Doug Pederson is that he lets his players be themselves without it becoming a distraction, right? He doesn't let the players rule the locker room, but he takes careful care of things that the veteran players like Malcolm Jenkins and Chris Long have to say.
Right. He carefully considers and respects their input.
It's a rare balance, I think.
Yeah.
So Dave and Amy, one question about the game tonight, and one of the most remarkable stories of the entire NFL preseason is that have been Jordan Mailata. Both of you got to see him in action tonight, played most of the game from the second quarter on. Just what are your thoughts on the progress and the development he's made since being drafted by the Eagles in the 7th round?
I'll let Amy take most of this, but I'll just say this. He's come a long way, but let's not kid ourselves here. He's got a long way to go. When the Eagles drafted him, they knew it was a 2-year project, so they are thrilled with his progress. But Amy, you see this big, beautiful 6'8" 375-pound piece of clay. It takes a while to mold that into a football player.
I'm glad you said that because I was about to get way too high on him right now. And yes, let me put my feet back on the ground.
Yeah.
I've been absolutely blown away by him and just the raw talent at an offensive line position that is so developmental, so much technique. It takes an incredibly long time, and it's so much more than size and athleticism. But to see him have technique in those moments, it shows intelligence and that he's such a quick learner. So
Yes.
I've been incredibly impressed with Jordan Mailata and his progress, and like you said, a long way to go.
Yeah, you hit on a quick learner, really adjust to coaching, and so a good start from Mailata. He's got a long way to go, as does this draft class. Chris and Ike, back to you. See you in the regular season.
Excellent. See you a week from tonight when the Eagles open the NFL regular season against the Atlanta Falcons. Just your thoughts on Mailata, because when he was selected, okay, you maybe thought he has these immense tools, and Jeff Stoutland, raved about the athleticism and that he could do things that players who have played for many, many years were unable to do. But, it was the question would be, could he actually develop into a player? Did he have the tenacity? Did he have the work ethic? What we're going to do right now is we're going to send it back over to the link now. Head coach Doug Pederson set to address the media after the Eagles' victory over the Jets. Can I hear?
To really, especially the ones that play in this game, to make it hard on us as coaches, as personnel staff, and give everything they have for one more opportunity. And I also tell them that, listen, they're competing, for our roster, but there's 31 other teams that are also looking, at everybody's roster, and we've got some good players, and we got to make some tough decisions, and that's just the nature of this ball game, and we got to get down to the 53 here over the weekend.
Because you play in a week, do you have to make these decisions a little quicker than you would otherwise?
Not really. We still got time. Still got some time the next couple of days to get it to where you want or get it where you think you have it. It's sped up a little just because we're playing on Thursday.
For a guy like Wheaton, does it give him an advantage because he's a veteran and you have Alshon who's going to be out for at least 2 weeks?
Well, we got to take that into consideration. Obviously he's played some football, in this league, and I thought I thought what he did tonight was good. We got to evaluate it tomorrow when we watch it and can break it down. But he has experience, and we got to factor that into everything.
But what do you think of Adams and Jones tonight, running backs?
I thought both of them ran extremely hard. Matt kind of, just go back to Josh. Josh, had the first half and did some good things, and then Matt in the second half just kind of took over. I think some offensive line play was we tightened some things up, and Stout made some adjustments and all that. But I thought Matt really came in and really sort of improved. As camp progressed and really had a nice game. To obviously score that game winner was key for him.
As a follow-up to Jimmy's question, is it accurate that Jeffrey's going to miss 2 weeks or at least 2 weeks?
Actually, you're talking about Alshon?
Yes.
Going to activate him off the PUP tomorrow.
And is playing Thursday realistic? Or?
That'll be day by day from here.
How did Adams do throughout minicamp and training camp? How would you assess his performance?
Who was that?
Josh Adams.
Oh, Josh Adams?
Yeah.
He's done some nice things. kind of came in, he missed the offseason a little bit with an injury and sort of was kind of a little playing catch up, and then come into camp and he was ready to go, and then he had a little setback again and got healthy from that, and he really has done a nice job for a young player. We've asked a lot of him, really, and again, without really making a fair evaluation after watching the tape, watching the full body of work, because he's also played some special teams. We got to factor that in and see where he's at and see if he, where he is now in these next couple of days based on that.
Doug, have you made a decision on who the starting quarterback is going to be for Thursday yet?
It's not Friday yet.
Are you guys going to sit down tomorrow and make that decision?
No, I mean, we don't have to make that decision right now. We still got some time before we hit the practice field again and go from there. But we'll have a conversation on it, though.
Sorry, how much are you looking forward to learning what the news is? Clear, not clear, as you guys anticipate getting ready for the Falcons?
Obviously, yeah, I mean, you anticipate it, but at the same time, I've got, the rest of the team to prepare to get ready for Atlanta. And, whoever it is, I mean, it's just, we just got to prepare the same way. We just got to take it one day at a time. We got to focus on one game at a time and take the 46 into that game that are ready to go.
Why did you choose the decision to sit Sudfeld?
I've seen a lot of Nate already. He's played a ton this offseason or this preseason. He's played a ton of football, and really I needed to get a fair assessment of Joe and Christian because we haven't really seen Christian.
So it's not connected to Thursday night in any way?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
What was your assessment of Joe and Christian?
I thought there were some good things. Obviously the turnovers are things that we can't do from the quarterback position. It was unfortunate there at the end of the half. Christian had a really nice drive going to at least maybe get 3 out of that drive, but we just ran out of time and all that, but did some nice things. And then Joe, I thought really in the second half, in the fourth quarter, came in and, once he, a nice drive, just kind of underthrew the pass. He had the guy in the end zone if he throws it a little bit further, but it was great to see him come back and bounce back and put together that touchdown drive at the end. So they both did great things. I'm excited for both of them and obviously their future and great way to finish the preseason with a touchdown drive.
Who's Nigel Bradham tomorrow? What's the message to him as he goes?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Number one, he understands, but. The message is just, hey, he's got to stay focused. He's got to stay ready. He's got to continue to work out, for the next, 7-8 days, whatever it is. And when he comes back, he's ready to go.
Has the decision been made on who's going to start that week one in his absence?
No, we haven't made those decisions yet.
Doug, when you talk about evaluation as a whole, go all the way back to the spring, and you've seen most of these guys through training camp. How much can this game tip the scales for those bubble players?
I think it can tip it a little bit. I mean, again, you got to take the full body of their work. It just can't rely on one football game. We got to go back to OTAs, and you got to, sometimes you have to go back and even just watch, a couple practices back then and see how they've progressed to now. And by doing that. We do our due diligence to make sure that the 53 is the right 53, in the next couple of days. And some of these guys, are going to make it tough on us.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Doug.
Brad, are you bringing anyone else?
All right, there's head coach Doug Pederson addressing the media, and the biggest news coming out of that, in my estimation, is that Alshon Jeffrey will be activated from the physically unable to perform list. He will be on the active roster. So there was that report early in training camp that he was going to be on PUP to start the season, which would have meant he would have missed the first 6 games. Not going to happen. He's day-to-day moving forward. We hope that he'll be able to be ready for next Thursday against Atlanta, but at the very least, he'll be ready at some point in the coming weeks. It's not going to be any kind of long-term absence for number 17.
That's good news. You're talking about a big weapon, especially when you're looking at the red zone. This was the number 1 team in the NFL in the red zone last year, and they did a great job of putting up touchdowns instead of field goals. It's the reason why before Carson Wentz went out, they were the number 1 scoring team in the NFL. And so having Alshon back as soon as possible can only add to what this offense wants to do. He is a big body. He knows how to go up and catch the 50-50 balls, and that's what you really want. You're not going to always be wide open as a receiver in this league. And sometimes the quarterback has to trust that you're going to do right by him, not let a ball get picked off and go up there and just grab it out of the air. And that's what Alshon has been known for. His second half of the season through the postseason, I thought was a huge reason why we ended up being Super Bowl champions last year. Alshon Jeffrey stepped up big time second half of the season. It took a few games for he and Carson to sort of get on the same page, but once they started to connect, man, I mean, you couldn't stop them.
I think about that play in the Denver game, which got them rolling in that game. Yeah. And, of course, everyone's going to remember for the longest time that first touchdown in the Super Bowl, catching it over Eric Rowe. Just amazing. Catch, yeah. With a torn rotator cuff on top. When you add that to it, you didn't know at the time. Yeah, exactly. It was after the fact you learned about that, and you're like, he did all of that, battling that injury the whole time. So Alshon Jeffrey coming off PUP list tomorrow. Roster cuts have to be due Saturday at 4 p.m. Of course, everyone wants to know from Coach Pederson who will start at quarterback next Thursday, and he said it's not Friday, referring to a remark he made earlier in the week that on Friday he will privately make the decision and then wait until 90 minutes before kickoff when the inactives have to be announced and revealed to the league. So from that standpoint, Coach Pederson has not yet made a determination who will start at quarterback against the Falcons, whether it's going to be Carson Wentz or Nick Foles. That's going to be the big question all week long. We've been asking it throughout the entire preseason. Now that the regular season is here, that's what everyone wants to know.
Yeah, and it's not going to go away until we find out who will be the starter. But here's the thing that I'll say. I think the Eagles have, we obviously know there's a difference between Carson Wentz and Nick Foles.
Certainly.
But you can win with either quarterback, and especially when you're talking about a short window. So I know we're all anticipating who's going to be the starter next Thursday night. The good thing for us as Eagles fans is that it's not like the drop-off is that great to where it's going to swing the pendulum as to whether or not you can win the football game.
Correct.
We've seen what Nick Foles can do on the biggest of the biggest stages. It doesn't get any bigger than playing in the Super Bowl, and he outdueled the greatest quarterback of all time, in my opinion, in Tom Brady. So we'll all be waiting and anticipating for him to announce who's going to be the starter. But the good thing for Eagles fans is that as it pertains to next week, you can win with either quarterback, quite frankly.
So in terms of the next 48 hours, really 72, because you factor in the fact that they'll cut to 53 on Saturday. Then they can claim people off the waiver wire on Sunday and form the practice squad. So those last few spots on the roster are going to be kind of interchangeable for the next couple of days or so. But as a player, you never really had to worry about cut day. Okay, because you came in as a draft pick during the Ray Rhodes era. You were firmly entrenched as a rookie, and then you solidified yourself as, obviously a special teams weapon and a key asset on defense as well. Yep. But what's it like for the guys that after a game like tonight, fourth preseason game, that they've probably suited up for the last time, at least in that training camp, in that uniform with you on the team?
I tell you, it's not easy for the players, man. These fringe players, guys at the bottom of the roster that are fighting for their NFL lives, you become close with them. These guys come in the spring, like right after the draft. Some even come in as free agents, guys that are bouncing around teams that are trying to stay in the league. And you get to know these guys. They go through training camp with you. You become closer. You become a team. And training camp always said in the preseason, it feels like college, because that's how many players that are on the team. You're talking about 90 guys on the roster, and 40-something guys have to be let go over the next couple of days. And so when you get to know these guys and you root for them because you know how hard they're fighting to stay on the roster, you feel for them. And Doug will tell you, any of these coaches will tell you, it's the toughest part of this job. It's cutting players, because these guys have given Doug everything he's asked for, and the only thing you can ask for from these players is to give me your best. Come in, pay attention to detail, be a team player, don't be selfish, fit into the culture that we built around here. And these guys so desperately want to be a part of the Philadelphia Eagles. And so the next couple of days are tough, especially for guys that are on the bubble. But the good thing is, I know plenty of stories where guys have been released here and they feel bad and they get picked up somewhere else, and next thing you know, their career is taken off in another position. So if these guys have taken care of their business, and the coaches tell them every time, it's not just us that are evaluating you, it's 31 other teams that are evaluating you as well. And so hopefully these guys have done everything they can to at least give themselves a chance to continue their NFL dreams, because Jerry Glanville said a long time ago, the NFL stands for not for long. And it's obviously a privilege to play in this league, and we only get a short time to do it. And so when those cuts come out, you feel bad that that guy or those guys aren't going to be necessarily on this team, but then you root for them to get picked up somewhere else. And I know plenty of guys that have been picked up elsewhere. One of my best friends, Al Wallace, got cut from here, went down to Carolina, put together a pretty good career in Carolina. So it happens.
It certainly does. Now, one player who was a 7th-round pick just a couple of years ago, but is firmly entrenched as a starter now, is cornerback Jalen Mills. Our Eagles insider Dave Spadaro had a chance to catch up with Mr. Mills right after the game. Let's send you to that interview right now.
Well, 1 week from tonight, it all begins. How much are you looking forward to the Atlanta Falcons coming to town?
Oh, man, it's everything we've been working for, this offseason, from OTAs, to the start of camp, during camp, and throughout the preseason, man. I think this team, we're going to be ready to go come Thursday night.
How has the defense played in the preseason, Jalen? Do you have a sense of how good it can be?
I mean, we're playing fast. That's one attitude that you want to have as a defense. Everybody going out there playing sound and playing fast, man. I think we've been doing that, whether it's the 1s, 2s, or the 3s.
The hunted team, how does that feel?
Right now, coming off last season, not really want to talk about it. It is what it is. We know where we are, but at the same time, it starts all over again. We know where we got to get, and it starts Thursday night.
Jalen Mills, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good luck, man.
All right, there's the insider with Jalen Mills, and that's going to be a fun battle. Remember, Jalen was covering Julio Jones on an ill-fated 4th and goal attempt from the 2-yard line. A little bit high, the all-pro wide receiver not able to come down with it, and you saw the finger wagging right away as the Eagles were on their way to the NFC Championship game, steamrolling the Vikings and then advancing to Super Bowl 52. So tonight was the final preseason game, and it was also the last chance to hear the exhibition version of Merrill Reese and Mike Quick, 2 members of the Eagles Hall of Fame. And we had a chance to kind of go behind the scenes and capture some of their best calls from tonight in Merrill Cam. Let's bring that to you now.
Back goes Wolford. He pumps, he fires, and it is intercepted inside the 5-yard line. It is picked off by Sullivan, and this time it is Chandon Sullivan.
I thought Chandon Sullivan had jumped too early, but he's in perfect position, better receiver position than the intended target, and he gives the Eagles the football back.
So he has something to remember. It is 4th and goal. Wolford gives off inside, and the Eagles stack up walls. They stack them up, and they're jumping up and down like they just won a playoff game.
Impressive. They did. These guys, they want to stop them. What a great job by Chateau.
So it was a 58-yard field goal that gave the Jets the lead. Here is Jake Elliott to attempt a 55-yarder. We know this is well within his reach. Ball is spotted. The kick is away. It's a line drive, and it is good. 1st and 15 at the 48. Back.
Means.
Being hit this time. Football loose. Picked up by the Eagles. Means came down. They hit Wolford. The ball came loose. Flags flew, and the Eagles came up with the ball.
See, Stephen Means is a snap-to-whistle kind of guy. He speeds around the right tackle, and he actually gets knocked to the ground, continues towards the quarterback, gets the football out. Stephen Means, what a player.
Thanks to Sports Radio 94 WIP for allowing us to share Merrillcam with all of you out there. We're going to take our first break here on the Postgame Show presented by Ricoh. Now, if you're following on Facebook or Twitter, you need to come on over to PhiladelphiaEagles.com or the Eagles app to watch the rest of the show. We're going to look ahead and preview Thursday night's matchup with the Atlanta Falcons and take a quick peek at the 2018 regular season calendar. And it's great to say regular season now that the preseason is over. So we will see you all after these first few messages.